yourselves, then you are in poverty, and you are poverty. Did not the Vedics say self-realization is required before God-realization? Did not the motto at the Oracle at Delphi said, know thyself? Every agency that exists in this world that is evil stands against that knowledge of the self, and stands against the agency of the Holy Spirit. But let me tell you that it's not just some astrological anecdote from some fringe astrological pundit when we know that the planet Pluto is coming towards galactic center, because as I've been describing, that is the representative of the Holy Spirit actually coming into this planet. Oh, it's on its way. Not perhaps as a Christian would understand it, granted. But I don't care about that. It is a fact. And this Pluto is connected to the spirit of rebellion, to Aquarius and to Uranus. But it is also something much more than that. It is literally the Holy Spirit that they've been talking about, entering into the world and into the hearts and minds of men. They've been telling us for a long, long time. Now the Spirit was the original, the Self was the original Holy Spirit. The return to self means the end of dependency of all kinds. Now that you know this, you can see that the selfless person, or the ego-based person, is in big trouble. Because Pluto, as Robert Hahn said, isn't particularly subtle. When it comes in to check the pulse and the immunity, you better be on the ball, because it's likely to go dissolution. Shiva is the god of dissolvement. Now the marriage with oneself is always and necessarily followed by a reciprocal divorce from all that is not the self. This is very important. In the mystical tradition, in astrology, and particularly alchemy, and in many New Age books, you'll always hear them rattle on about the famous chemical wedding. And it's all beautiful poesy is written, and wonderful anecdotes about this mysterious chemical wedding. Anyone who's a real occultist, or magician, or teacher, will tell you that actually, before you can ever even approach this strange nucleated state, or join the feminine and the masculine together, and the higher man and the lower man, before you can come to that state, you must first participate in a chemical divorce. See, it's the opposite of what we have on life. First we marry, then we divorce. Mystically, it's a reverse. Divorce from what? From all that is wrong, all that is false, all that is corrupt. Until you end in your life all the things that are not true, you can forget about any type of enlightenment. This is a catabolic action, and Pluto is going to be the teacher of that. It's not going to be an acquisitive I want. Like the rich man says he wants a Mercedes, the spiritual man says I want God. But it's all born out of the same need and feeling of emptiness. No, it's not going to come that way. This is a yin action, not a yang action. You don't get it in the same way that you acquire. It's not a product of the acquisitive, egoistic mind that wants the whole world to fill its emptiness. Now, of course, this return to selfhood and the division, right, the divorce from all that is false, is very painful and traumatic to the ego of man, because the ego is well happy with all of that. The ego has made its home here, and now you're telling it to burn down its shack. Because look, I just built this thing. And therefore, hence, as I've been saying, the avoidance and the gimmicks and the denial and the projection and everything else that we're involved with. But as Friedrich Nietzsche said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will often be lonely. And you will sometimes even be frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. The magician from the 19th century, Aleister Crowley, he puts it this way, talking in incredible language. Anyone who is forced from his own course, either through not understanding himself or through external imposition, comes into conflict with the order of the universe and suffers accordingly. So if there's stress and suffering in your life, there's a reason. As I said, those are red flags. Those are guardians coming and knocking on your door saying, hey, part of the building is crumbling. Things are off. Your suffering is your guide. Your fear, your tension, your nightmares, you can't drug it out of existence. You can't medicate it. Well, you can. But it's, that's destruction. That's annihilation, is what you're basically doing. And more so, you're producing leviathans who prey upon you by doing that. When you accept that you can do something about it, and you see this, whenever suffering or anger or pain enters into your life, you listen to it. You let it wash over you. In the movie Dune, they talk about this from the books of Frank Herbert. There's many other movies and other art forms that talk about this, that explain this concept that I'm talking about. And once upon a time, it was the teachings of all yoga and magic and religion. This is what I'm talking about. Where you say, then teach me. I won't try to escape from you. You keep pestering me. I'm not going to run away from you anymore. Tell me why you're here. And slowly, if you're silent enough, forget about third eyes, develop a third ear. And listen very calmly and quietly and still to your angst and pain and suffering and sorrow. Don't medicate it out of existence or try to silence it, because it's got an amazing story to tell you. And you see, the God force in this universe is not going to turn its volume up to be heard. You have to turn your racket down. It's always talking. It's always there, symbolically and in other forms of communication. But we have to turn our noise down, and suddenly you'll hear it there. It's always playing in the background. So, in short, the message of Shiva or Pluto, whatever you want, what tradition you're coming from, it's Jesus. It's the Jesus with the sword is very aligned to this. Other cultures have Durga, Kali. The message of this Holy Spirit is personal exorcism. The personal exorcism of anything that contravenes the recognition of your own perfection and of your own value. Meaning what? Do yourself a break and lay off the hunting for spiritual perfection and enlightenment. You already have it. You just don't know you have it because there's a welter of self-induced and also externally induced prohibitions and inhibitions and weights upon your shoulders, keeping you from the understanding of your own perfection. Then when you're under that weight, you're actually running around looking for truth and for gurus and for sanity. The weight is keeping you from being it already. You're not going to achieve this state from an act of doing. At least not in the way that the Western world understands the concept of doing. It's a very Zen Taoist thing. It's more like undoing. Ultimately, it's about being. It's the difference between life and lifestyle. In that mystery of releasing from your... And analyzing. We have to do what we're doing right now sitting in this room. We have to analyze the factors that are holding us down, that are chaining us. You go, look, I want to go here, and I'm blaming myself, and I'm terribly punitive to myself, and I show a lot of anger and aggression towards other people because I think they're getting in my way, and I'm not aware that I'm carrying an incredible load. I'm a bloody pack mule for somebody or something. It's like a balloon, a big hot air balloon that's chained to the ground. If you release the chains, the balloon rises of its own accord, and the natural forces take right over. But we have been duped into thinking that we're imperfect and fallen and horrible and rotten, and that you're just a sinner. But the magus does not convert sinners, like these demagogues that we've been looking at. The magus, the shaman, awakens the ready. It's a totally different concept. You're already, the teacher. You're going to become the teacher. And when you're ready, the teacher awakens you. Not converting sinners for a paycheck. So the study of all necrotic agencies, whether internal or external, this is what Pluto is going to be bringing in. But the masters have said, like Krishnamurti, for instance, and Alan Watts, and other American versions of the same thing, and many teachers I can think of. But we have funded and paid for teachers and churches, and we've built leviathans running around to find out what is enlightenment. We've bought into every kind of nonsense to find out what is God, what is tradition, what is enlightenment. And you know something? It might boil down to something very simple. It might boil down to simply the process of independence, as against the collectivism. It might be freeing others from the slavery to your emptiness and need. I need you, I'm empty, I need you, you're empty, you need me. And call that love, and call that relationship. When you free another from that kind of soft tyranny, maybe that is a path to enlightenment. Maybe when you're in a relationship and you say, we are in a relationship together as two individuals, and when you look like you're becoming dependent, I don't back it up. I step back. And if you fall, you fall. But I will not become your prop so that you can live in absence of selfhood, because then I'm contravening the Holy Spirit. And when you see me doing it, you likewise warn me. And when we do that, we have a healthy relationship. So we're each other's mirror, but we're also each other's teacher. And perhaps it's also this, that when you are no longer emotionally affected, and I mean negatively or positively, by what any other person does, says, or thinks about you. So give it some thought, because it might be very, very simple. But of course, we don't want to do that. And now